So this is class 4 of government, and the book, if it is in the bookstore, I'd like you to get it. If not, we will come up with another way to get it. It's called Living Democracy by Shea. There may be a different name of it at this point, but it's by Shea, S-H-E-A. This probably will not be the cover because this is the instructor's edition. It's not a horrible book, but it's a biased book. And what have I told you guys about bias? Have I mentioned that? We're in government here, and when you deal with government, we're also dealing with politics. And people have their own political views, okay? We're all right now under the same government, but we all have different political views. Some of us have the same political views, similar at least. But writers are particularly biased, okay? Everybody is biased. Everybody is biased. So this book is gonna describe government, but it's also going to slant towards the particular author's political views, and Shea is a well-known left-wing kind of guy, so he's not a big fan of conservatives, okay? Fan of Christians and all that, so that's the book we use, and it's coming from his side. But of course, then again, you got me as your professor, who's a conservative Christian, so my side's kind of, you got me teaching you. You're at a conservative school. You're at a conservative Christian school. So our views on abortion are going to reflect what? The conservative Christian worldview. Makes sense? Go to U of H, that view will not even be present at all. Okay. I pick on U of H a lot. It's just the one down the street. If we were in North Carolina, I'd be saying UNC, the Tar Heels, and NC State and all those guys, but all the public schools. So it's not to say there are no Christians or conservatives there at all, but I do want to let you know they are rare birds in academia. This may be news to some of you. Is it news to any of you? Or have you already heard, did you just assume we're all a bunch of even-handed, non-biased, mixed bag of he believes one thing, this person believes something, and right? Did you think there was kind of a 50-50? You did not think that? You're a smart man. It's more like a 95 to 5% kind of left-wing liberal in public schools to conservatives. It's pretty bad. Not necessarily here because you're at a private conservative school. So it might go quite the other way, but it has to be a conservative school for you to get that. Okay, so with that being said, there's bias in the book, there's bias in the professor, bias in the institutions. Keep that in mind. That's just true. That will help you say, okay, well, I know the guy's coming from a particular place. I come from a place, whether it be this place, his place, or another one, and then you go, okay, I see that now. And you understand that, you don't feel so like, wait, this seems a bit odd and unfair. Just remember, there's no such thing as a non-biased professor. I don't care if a professor tells you, I'm not biased. That's the worst one. Because that guy can't even, he's hiding it from only himself usually. All right, so just keep that in mind. And we're judged on your ability to know the subject, not your whether or not you agree. Does it make sense? Now, there are certain professors, not at this school, better not be at this school, will say if you don't agree with me, you will fail. In fact, they've made news saying such things, being so stupid. All right, so what have you learned so far? Tell me that, because let's do a little review, especially since we're talking about learning from the videos. What have you learned? I'll pick you. I know. So Jade, let's start with Jade. Jade, what have you gotten from the video so far?
I was only able to pull up the video of you reading the
Syllabus?
no, the Mayflower.
Compact.
Yes.
Did you not find the other one?
No.
There's another one. There are 3 of them total. How many of you are familiar, know that there are 3 videos that you should have seen thus far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, except for JJ. Okay, so I put links on Panopto, but they don't work. Okay, I also on the announcements, I have placed the URL. You cut and paste into YouTube.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, we've learned something now, how to get to videos. This video will be on YouTube. You know how you should know that because it's not being used, it's not being filmed or recorded with the computer. Okay, if I'm using the computer right here, it's probably going to Panopto. I'll put a link on Panopto, but Panopto's had so many problems that I'm just using this.
Okay.
It should take a day and a half to get up. It takes that long for that stuff to upload because they're long videos. What have you learned thus far?
The Magna Carta
What about it?
is a document that like gave people like their first rights, or not like their first rights, but like that was
Articulated
the first
rights, yeah, demanded that the king recognize these things, right? Yeah, yeah,
limited
so,
the power of the king.
yeah, it certainly limited the power of the king. And one way, you know, we had this thing called the Bloodless Revolution in England, where the power of the purse ended up being put in the hands of Parliament. And what do I mean by the power of the purse? What do you put in the purse? Besides makeup, cell phones? Huh? Money. Yeah, when you have who has the power of the purse in America? What branch of government? Congress. Congress. That limits the monarch, the king, in that he couldn't wage war or do certain things unless he had enough money to do it, right? And Parliament could say, look, you can make the decisions to do it, but you have to make decisions based on what you can afford. And if we don't give you the money, you're not going to be able to afford it, thus you may want to rethink that. In America, Congress holds the power of the purse, and so the Congress can tell a president who is, say, waging a war or doing certain things, we will not fund that. I'll give you 2 examples. During the Iraq War, the Democrats, who had originally voted for this, along with our president, along with the Republicans, they were saying we need to end this war, and if you don't end it, we're just going to starve the troops, so to speak. They didn't use that language. That's my biased language. They were saying we're going to cut off funds for the war, but what that says is we're not going to provide enough money for the American military to do what they are there to do, right? We're not going to give them money, and that becomes a problem too. So politically, I mean, you're going to let our people die out there. Is that what you're saying? And so you can see how, people get very angry and stuff. Well, anyway, the second one has to do like the current president, Donald J. Trump, who made a political promise when he was running for office. He said, if you elect me, I will end illegal border crossings and human trafficking and the drug trafficking trade and all that by putting up a wall, right? And so he gets elected president, but of course, to build a wall, he needs the money. Who has the power of the purse? Congress. So since Congress has the power of the purse, Donald J. Trump had a problem. He's like, now I gotta get enough money. So there was a lot of finagling going on for him to get enough money to build the amount of the wall that he has built. How much has he built? I think we're up to about 500 miles. So about 500 miles of border wall. Has it worked?
No.
Who said no? You. It has worked. Where there's a wall, border crossings are down.
Okay.
Make sense?
Okay.
It's harder to, how many people got through here, this room without a door? None of you. Walls work, right? It kept you out until the door was open. Now, if you dig a hole under the wall, that still slows you down, right? But it's not just wide open, okay? The tunnels are dug by the cartels. They're not just letting everybody through those. Those are their tunnels.
This is a really dumb question, but where has it started? Where's the wall located?
That's not a dumb question. Why don't you look up it on your phone? Tell me what you find. Cause
I knew that they were like about border stuff, but I didn't know that he already started the wall.
do you watch the news?
Sometimes it's been.
What channel do you watch?
I honestly, my parents are pretty conservative, so they watch like Fox, but
Okay.
I don't really watch the news at all.
So then, well, if you don't watch news, you have no reason to know this stuff. This is just current events. And even Fox News doesn't necessarily cover the where it's been. I'm sure they mentioned it. You find that out, we'll know where it is. But I've heard border crossings are now where it is, okay? I know, I think El Paso is, I think there's a wall in El Paso,
Yeah,
part of it's in
that's
El
right.
Paso, which caused Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis, otherwise known as O'Rourke, to complain. Anyway, Becky, what'd you learn thus far?
The types of government.
Types of government. Oh, that's great, because we did talk about it. Can you name the 6?
There's anarchy.
That's not really a type of government. That's a lack of government, right? So, but you're good to start off with that, right? Because I started off with that.
And then democracy.
Okay, that was the last one I mentioned,
That's
correct? And was that a good? Did we say that was good or bad? We broke up government into 2 types: just and unjust, right? Monarchies, the just rule of the one. The unjust rule of the one is what? Starts with
Tyranny.
tyranny, yeah. And then we had the just rule of the few, which is aristocracy. Is this familiar to y'all who've watched the videos? Okay. The unjust rule of the few was oligarchy. I gave Russia as an example of that, the current Russian system right now. And then we had polity, which we don't use that word nowadays, but back in the day, Aristotle would have used stuff like that. Polity is the just rule of the many, and according to Aristotle, democracy is the tyranny of the masses, otherwise known as the unjust rule of the many. Okay? I mean, what happens when you have a bunch of immoral people voting? They vote for immoral stuff and immoral people, and thus you'll get immoral governments. And we get the government we deserve if we vote that way, right? So if you look at these cities where they're falling apart and they've had the same politicians in charge and the people are re-voting them into office, we gotta ask the question, what is going on here? Are people voting correctly? Morally speaking. Because I mean, there's some real moral shortcomings of many politicians out there. Would you agree? There's a lot of people going to politicians because it's not about them, it's about, right? The ego of being in charge, so to speak. Technically, they're not supposed to be in charge. They're supposed to be servants of, whatever. All right, that's cool. All right, I can piggyback off that and give the whole lecture again. What else would you learn?
Well, I was kind of just like I really just remember the Magna Carta and then the types of government. That's really what I remember.
Okay. So there are lots of things. I use the word justice, right? What is it? I gave a definition of justice, did I not? I gave 2 types: distributive and retributive. Do you remember that? So that's in there. And so you ask the question, we talked about a bit the Declaration of Independence too in the first couple lectures, right? Thomas Jefferson suggested that if you know, governments are erected amongst men to do what?
To protect their rights.
Secure rights. Where do rights come from? This is gonna be the most important, this is the most important part of the class. This will determine where you land on certain issues.
They're supposed to be God-given rights, correct?
Yeah. Now, if God doesn't exist, did God give us these rights?
If he doesn't exist,
Then no. Then you don't have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, correct? So this any claim to rights by atheists is ridiculous. There are no such thing as shapes, there's no such thing as triangles, correct? Because all triangles are shaped, right? But if there's no such thing as shapes, then there couldn't be triangles. Now there are shapes, so we know that there are triangles, right? And in the same way, if there's no such thing as God, then there are no such thing as rights. But you do have a right to life, don't you? And you know it. So if there's a right, then there's God. Okay? The problem is these people want to claim rights without recognizing God as the author of those rights. Okay. So that's very important, especially when we say, do all humans have a right to life? Do you ever, how many in here, if the government said, you gotta go, would say, no, that's wrong. I have a right to life. And they say, well, we changed the law. Would you disagree and say, I still have the right to life? You all would? You'd agree?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you?
I still have the right to life.
Good, that's what I want to hear. Do all humans have the right to life?
yes,
Are you sure?
yes.
Are you sure?
We were all made by God.
Okay. What about those humans geographically located in a uterus? Do those humans have a right to life? If all humans have a right to life, women are pregnant with humans, right? Do those humans have a right to life? Okay, that's fine. America and Canada since 1973 has committed over 65 million abortions. Is that just? That's just for you to think, okay? Then you say, well, I'm pro-choice. You go, well then, the answer to the first question is, no, not all humans have a right to life. Only some have a right to life. Those inside the womb do not have it. Those outside the womb do, right? But then you've also disagreed with the statement that all humans are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Make sense? Okay. See, these first principles, the very first principles of our country are the most important topics of discussion in this class, because once you leave here and start talking about politics, then you're asking the question, is the government securing those rights? Does that which the government do secure those rights? The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay? And then we can talk about laws and changing the government so that we can have a more just system. And we talked about justice, and I gave you the two types. The lexis talionis was the law of the tooth, right? And that has to do with retributive justice, correct? Retributive justice has to do with crime and punishment. Let the punishment fit the crime. Is there anybody in here against the death penalty? All of you are for death penalty? Oh my God, no, I'm just kidding, I'm just picking on you. You're against it. So a guy kills your whole family. What are you gonna, what should the punishment be?
Okay, I'm not against it.
All right, there you go. How about you? Your whole family watched it.
I mean, killing us not gonna bring them back.
That's not but that's not really not what I asked.
Okay.
Because the goal of punishment isn't to undo a crime.
True.
It's to punish for the crime. Okay? It's payment. I mean, if that's the case, should he go to jail at all?
No, we should.
He should?
Yeah.
Okay. What equals, what punishment is equal to the killing of your whole family? That's why they have the Lexis Talionis, the law of the tooth, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You know, this idea that equals being treated equally, right? In the last video, this is reviewing kind of, equals being treated equally, right? You heard why I was discriminated against by the NBA. If you watched the video, you didn't watch the whole video. You guys skipped some of it. Didn't even get to the best part. NBA totally discriminated against me. You got this one? Right. On what grounds did they discriminate against me? I suck. I'm not good at basketball. I mean, yeah, if I played myself, I'd lose. Okay? I'm not that bad. But I'm certainly not NBA good, okay? Is it unjust to discriminate on that ground? No, it's perfectly just. Equals being treated equally, unequals being treated unequally, right? The punishment fits the crime, equal pay for equal work. I'm not equal to Kobe Bryant or, any of these guys. And why should I get paid as much as they? Why should I even be able to grace the floor with this 5'9.5" body, you know? I shouldn't. I've got no talent. If I pay the right amount of money, they'll let me sit in the stands and cheer on whatever team I want. But I'm certainly not going to be able to play, and I'm certainly not going to be paid as much as that at all, because it's unequal. So the idea is equity, or in what we want to see is crime fit the punishment. We want to see the wages, equal pay for equal work, right? Quality and quantity, not necessarily effort. The work is judged. The crime is judged. The punishment versus the crime. Okay? So justice has a lot to do with that. So, when we want to make sure our system is just, treats everybody in a certain way, pay. All right. What else did you learn? Let's see. Where did we go? We got with you, and you said, okay. This is important, by the way, to watch all the way through. I know it's not the funnest stuff in the world, but some of this stuff I throw at the last minute, going, "Oh yeah, this is what you're gonna do next time." Okay. So, throw it on, go for a walk, listen to it, and go, okay.
Well, maybe.
By the go for a walk, you take it with you in your headphones, not go for a walk and leave. Okay, you got that? Go ahead.
What made me stuck with me was what we were just talking about our God-given rights and about the difference between like stuff that was like on the Bill of Rights and what actually isn't. But the misconception that people have, at least what I had.
Yeah, tell me about this Bill of Rights thing.
So, I mean, it was made with like different people in mind because it was at a different time, and it's not like, I don't know how to describe it, but
Does the Bill of Rights still apply to us today?
somewhat yes. but
Somewhat
it's-
yes.
Like,
Do you
I
still have a
would
right
say-
to freedom of speech?
Yes, we do.
Do you still have a right to freedom of press?
Yes,
How about the freedom of religion?
yes,
Okay, those were the big three.
yeah,
How about the right to gather, to demonstrate peaceably?
yes.
Get out there, picket, and say, hey, this is unjust, we'd like some change.
Mhm.
So Martin Luther King Jr., if he were here today, we wouldn't be putting him in cuffs and sending him away, would we? He'd still have the right to do that.
Right.
So those are all still valid.
Mhm.
You have a right to life, you said.
Yes,
Do you have a right to defend your life?
yes,
Does that mean you have a right to own a gun so that you can defend that life when the 300-pound monster comes through your door there to destroy you, or do you have a right to have what it takes to equalize the fight?
Yeah.
So you have a right to bear arms.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have a right for police to come in and search and seize things in your house without warrants? No. You have a right that they should not come, right?
Right.
You have a right against illegal search and seizure.
Yeah.
Do you have a right to keep from being a witness against yourself? Self-incrimination. You have a right to remain silent.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You've heard that one, okay. You have a right to vote.
Yes.
So it seems to me a lot of these amendments are still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Can you pick one that's questionable?
No.
Okay. Seems like it's pretty applicable to this day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if you don't like? Have you ever heard the word hate speech?
Yes.
Should I have a right to spew hate speech?
Mm. I mean.
There are words you don't like, right?
Right.
Does that mean just because you don't like it and you're offended that I shouldn't be able to say them?
No.
So the First Amendment, why do we have the First Amendment, folks? Is because people do say offensive things.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing you want is the government saying, I'm offended by this, because I'm offended by this, I'm gonna put you in jail. Right? You speak out against me, you call me the wrong name, I will kill you. Right? You don't want that, do you? Even if you're in power, you may not always be in power. So, and there are a lot of words out there, a lot of people, you know, words do hurt, right? Words hurt. Sort of fists, sort of rocks, sort of bricks, you know, all that hurts. But the one thing you don't want to do is tell people you cannot say, because one of the things, what are you really trying to do if you're trying to keep people from saying certain things?
Taking away their free speech.
You take away their free speech because you want to prevent them from convincing others that they are right. That's usually the case. And so you say, that's hate speech. We're going to shut that down because if they keep saying this, other people might believe them. So you're really trying to control what people think, if that makes sense. Speech is how we communicate ideas. Ideas. We use our words, the written word and the spoken word, the recorded word, to communicate ideas. You shut down free speech, that's what you're doing, is you're trying to keep people from thinking a different way. Okay, now I'll agree with you that there are some things we shouldn't believe. I'm against child pornography. I don't want people thinking it's okay to exploit children, okay? And it is illegal to do that, and it should be. And people go to jail for it. Now, if somebody wants to come out and say, I think we should, and they do, there are groups out there that want to get rid of laws against children. I'm not going to stop them, right, from making their arguments. I should give them a much better argument as to why children should be protected from these pervs, okay? You don't put them in jail, but you do, so, okay. Now there's some speech that should be illegal, like telling somebody that you're gonna kill them right there and you're in the spot, okay? That's right there a threat on the spot, okay? That's actually an act of aggression. That's really gonna, that's like, I'm gonna kill you, okay, well then I better pull out my gun and shoot you first, okay? So you don't yell fire in a public place, that kind of stuff, because that's a public danger. But general political speech, even bad off-color jokes, now then you're getting into a place where really it's better to be offended than to start shutting down what people say, right? Because I know there are plenty of comedians who are like, it's not even fun being a comedian anymore. Anyway, so that's interesting though. Yeah. Good. What you got?
Marxism. I learned that
Marxism, yes.
wealth can be created.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
a pie that you can take away from others, that you can actually create wealth. Yeah, that's.
It's an interesting thing. You very rarely get, more, there's this law of diminishing returns, right? When it comes to energy input, you usually get less energy as an output, okay? But with value, you go take a bunch of beads and a string and you can make a necklace out of it. And the whole of the beads and the string is more valuable in a marketplace called jewelry, right, than selling the parts. If you have a bunch of metal and stuff, you put it together, you get a car. You got something you can sell now. And if you have ideas and know how to do that, you can make money off of that. There are two major views of the economy, major economies that we could talk about. You got the command economy and you got the free market economy. Could you tell me what those are?
Say that again.
Command economy and a free market economy? No, okay. So the command economy is where the government owns all the business. Okay, there's no private ownership of business. You can't open your own gas station. You can't own your own oil wells. You can't have your own private practice as a doctor. Everybody works for the state. You're all an employee. Okay, the government sets the prices, and very hard thing to do, because supply and demand, if the government's trying to regulate the prices, you may have very few of this item, but it's still cheap and it all goes, you have a shortage of it or whatever. Then you got this glut of things over here that nobody wants, and their the government set a price for that, and it's like nobody wants it, and you're not lowering the price or whatever. So the government is not really good at that stuff. But a command economy is where the government controls all facets of the economy. Marxism is generally the political philosophy that takes on the view that a command economy is the way it should be, that the government can distribute wealth the best. Okay? Free market economy says the government should get the heck out of the way and just let the supply and demand dictate prices, dictate goods and services, what's available, not just what's available, but how much of it is available. And so the private sector goes out, and if you make something, you sell it, you set the price, and if people buy it, that's great. If not, then you better lower your price until they do buy it, right? And rather than having agencies set the price, there's a natural price creation, price setting by the supply and demand of something. The more something's in demand, the higher the price will tend to be. And the less demand, the lower the price will be. You can't get rid of the stuff. It has to do with value, and it's the value relation in a relation to its demand, and scarcity is a big deal. How much of something is available. Gold tends to be valuable because as a commodity it's very useful, but not that it's just useful, but that it is what? Scarce. So anyway, so there are two economic models, and America has what's called a mixed economy, where the government does own certain things and does regulate certain things, and there's a free market there. Now, there's a balance in America, and one of the big debates between the political parties is to what degree we should move more closely to a command economy or more to a laissez-faire free market economy where the government just takes its hands off, okay? And of course, free market economists, they're often called greedy and whatnot, but I mean, if you don't look out for your family and stuff, and you don't want more, it's okay to want more. Greed is bad, but it's okay to want more. So, they tend to be villainized. But less regulation, the more likely businesses will succeed. The more regulation, the more likely they won't even start because people will be like, man, forget it, okay? And so there's a sliding scale in our political, so there are a lot of Marxists in America right now, more than we've had in the history of my life. And these Marxists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, otherwise known as Sandy Cortez, it's her real name, and until she changed it for political reasons. That's my bias coming through. That's a bias alert. She's a socialist, so she believes in she's a Marxist. Scary. It's very scary in America, but she wants the government to take over a larger amount of the economy, moving us really close to a command economy. Bernie Sanders is the same. Elizabeth Warren, she would like the same. These are Kamala Harris. These are pretty much very strong leftists in that regard, and would like socialized medicine, socialized our environment, all the goods and services dealing with that to be socialized and governed. It's pretty, and so of course other people are like, no, God, no, socialism is bad. Look at all the people who died as a result, yada yada yada. And they're like, laissez-faire, it'll work, you know. It's a big debate. So Marxism right now is a hot topic in America, because that's what we're fighting right now. When I say we're fighting, that's what the fight's over, is the embracing of a Marxist regime to govern our country. Do Marxists believe in God? Some would say yes, but Marxism is a godless system, and that would go against our founding principles, okay? And that would mean rights don't come from God, they come from the government. That's why when Hillary Clinton said, unborn children don't have a constitutional right to life, I replied, well, none of you have a constitutional right to life. You have a natural right to life that has been endowed by God. Because there's nowhere in the Constitution that says you have a right to life. This is in the Declaration of Independence, and it's declaring it. It's not establishing it. It is merely setting the point that you have this because of this. That's why they were rebelling, declaring their independence. All right. Well, that's all pretty well and good. I think we got quite a bit of that. What time's class end here?
10 minutes.
In 10 minutes, we got 10 minutes. Good. Let's talk a little bit about the Declaration of Independence. I put it up online. You guys read it, or who's not read it? Read it. You're all going to be responsible to read it. You're all going to be responsible to read the Mayflower Compact, very short. You are all going to be responsible to read the Bill of Rights, which is, you're all going to read the Constitution for sure. Okay, so these are going to be our founding documents, Declaration of Independence. But who can tell me what Constitution we had before the U.S. Constitution?
The Articles of Federation.
Articles of Confederation. Where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah, New Jersey? That's
No,
a
I'm from
joke.
here.
You're from Houston?
Yeah.
You grew up in Houston?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So if you're Texan, you're a native Texan. You were born in Texas?
Yeah.
So if you're native Texan, then Texas was its own republic, right, for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Texas became, annexed. Okay. So when the Revolutionary War started, they had established the Articles of Confederation, which was a constitution. Did it work? Not so well. It was really, they called us, this is where the name was established, the United States of America, and the U was a little u, not a big U, right? It was states that were independent, that were united in a cause. What was that cause? To defeat the British, to establish the independence of these states. one of the problems, they had lots of problems, but they couldn't pass laws, they couldn't enforce things, they couldn't enforce trade, they all had different money. You know, each state had its own currency. They were making treaties with other countries, each state, you know, they were conflicted with other treaties with other states. They couldn't raise money. They couldn't enforce laws, federal laws. And these guys got together and they said, you know what? This sucks. They didn't use that word. I don't think they used that word back then. We got to do something else. In the preamble of the Constitution, it says, in order to form a more perfect union. Right? More perfect than what? Than what they had, the Articles of Confederation. And thus, they created the United States of America, the Constitution, which created a stronger centralized government. Okay? I'm going to go backwards to, I think it was the first lecture of the day. We created a stronger federal government. Okay, so the federal government had more power over the people's lives in the individual states, which was not exactly preferred by many people. Okay? Do you want the government having more or less power over you? What? You want more?
No.
Okay, I don't. What do you want, more or less?
Less.
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 Are you guys Republicans? All of you are Republicans. That's the Republican talk. Yes, I want less government. Come on. That is the slogan kind of for Republic. Less government. Big government. We probably want to get rid of big government. They want to get rid of regulations because every time you make a law, who does it apply to? Everybody. Generally. So less law becomes less enforcement. Less enforcement because how many people are going to go to jail for smoking pot once they legalize it? No, once it's legal, you don't go to jail for things that are legal, right? Okay. California, I mean, people go to jail for recreational use of marijuana now, unless they're under 18 or 21 or whatever it is, are probably not getting prosecuted at all. Okay. Even the federal government, because it is a federal crime, isn't really doing anything about it. So anyway, so as they create this document now, we got a new federal government on top of the state and on top of the local. So if you want power, which is the citizen's most powerful position to be in? To vote in, I should say. Federal, state, city, school board. Where does your vote have the most power? The smallest government. You govern yourself first, right? Then in your family, you probably have a little more power, right? You go to the school board, you go to the whatever, the city, right? Then you go to the state. The smaller, there's an old saying, all politics is local, okay? So, and by the way, those are the politics that are going to affect you most, right? The ones that are literally geographically closer to you. Your kid goes to a certain school, they have rules, you want to vote on those rules because it's going to affect you and your kid, right? School doesn't generally, the federal government does talk about school, of course. But then the state, the city, and then the state, and then federal. We get all uppity about federal elections, right? Because it's the President of the United States. That really doesn't affect us as much, the outcome as much as these small elections. And we don't have as much power. So keep that in mind. So we've got, I want you to get, I don't want you to, you can start reading the Constitution, but I wouldn't suggest that you finish it. Because it's gonna be a long time, okay? If you could go, I'm gonna end on this because I know we're out of time. I want you to get the book by Shea. Okay, I want you to get the book by Shea. If they don't have it, you let me know, you just email me, and then I will provide you with the material from it, okay? It's an expensive book, so hope that they don't have it. That puts a lot more burden on me to photograph it or photocopy it and put it on there. But you might be able to get an online version, okay? But it's an okay book. It's you know, it gives us some structure, all right? Did you learn anything today, even in review? No? Oh, yeah. Can't remember our names. Let's see what we got here. We got Jade, we got Katie, we got Becky, we've got Allison. Oh yeah, that's right, Allison. And I'm not gonna remember the last two. What's your name again?
Crystal.
Crystal. And
Andrea.
Andrea.
Mhm.
Andrea and Crystal, I'm gonna start with you two next time. And I will remember your name. That's my goal. It's because I started that way and went this way and kept doing that. So Andrea and Crystal, I'm gonna do my best to remember that. But I do remember that you are a singer. I remember that you are questioning whether or not you're gonna go into medicine, or whether or not you're gonna be a physician or a nurse. Trust me, if you wanna be a nurse, I think it's a noble profession. I just want, if you wanna make the big bucks and the big decisions to be a doctor. You are going to be a mass communication manipulator, and you're otherwise known as PR. And you, Becky, are going to be a doctor, a pediatrician out in the mission field, very good. And then you are going to be a dentist, and Jade is into finance. Okay? I'm very happy for all of you. You guys have all made great choices. Okay? All right. I will look forward to seeing you on Tuesday or Thursday. Feel free to come in on Tuesday. You'll probably learn a lot more. You'll fall asleep a lot less during the video. Okay? You just won't be able to get up and move around. Okay? All right. Now you can go. Have a great day.